What's up, guys? What's up? Glad in the house. How's it going, man? You notice my mic and everything is good. Everything's playing. So I'm good to do a show here tonight. I will say it's a little bit of a different format tonight. Normally this is my Cowboys preview for the upcoming game. I'll be honest with you guys. The last 24 hours have been a whirlwind for me. I'm not going to get into everything that's been going on, but I'm not my usual prepared self for the show tonight. However, I am going to do a live with DDP, and for those wanting the Cowboys preview, the Cowboys Lions preview, I will be doing that either tomorrow night or Saturday. I didn't get to do my initial announcement video for this, but I'll say it now. You might have already seen it advertised a little bit by Law Nation and Big Game James. We are going to be part of the Cowboys Experience at Lava Cantina in Plano, Texas, Saturday from 2 to 4:30, and we're going to be joined by Brice Butler, Chidobe Awuzie, Jeff Heath, and Cowboys legend, the original 88, Drew Pearson. All of those guys are going to be at the event as well. The plan is we are going to get time with them. The Cowboys Experience asked us specifically to come out. So this is the announcement that I was kind of hinting at this past Sunday. If you guys were watching during that, I'm excited about it. It's just one of those things, man, that it's not an opportunity that comes around all that often. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we can do with it, and I'm hoping that this is the first of many such occurrences. I would love for us to be back out there each Saturday before a Cowboys home game, which is the typical setup for Cowboys Experience for these kind of pep rally things. I don't know what else they would really call it. But yeah, so come check it out. Hang out with Law Nation, Big Game James, and myself. We will be at Lava Cantina in Plano, Texas this Saturday from 2 to 4:30, among several Cowboy players, like name-worthy players, right? Brice Butler. I know he hasn't had his first game back in Dallas yet, but that'll be this Sunday. Brice Butler, Chidobe Awuzie, Jeff Heath. You get two defensive starters right there, and you get the original 88. That's what's up. So, let's see here. I notice that my counter isn't showing. What's up with that? Come on, YouTube. Get it right. Get with the program. There it is. Sweet. So this is an open forum for you guys. This is a open platform. If you guys got questions, Cowboys, Mavericks, hit me with them. I will answer the questions. This is probably, I know I've said this before and it hasn't been the case, but this is probably going to be a shorter show tonight. I'm physically and emotionally kind of drained right now, so I wanted to keep my commitment, my promise to you guys that I would do a show every Thursday and stick to what I laid out, and I'm gonna get you guys that preview. Shea Patterson, next Cowboys quarterback, says Marquise McCauley. I gotta look at Patterson more, but I do like what I've seen so far. I'm intrigued for sure to see what potential he can have. It's one of those things, right? I've said before, it's possible for Dallas to win with Dak, but you got to have the structure in place around him. And if they're intent on keeping this coaching staff, even if that just means Jason Garrett, I don't think that they're going to correct the problems that they're having with Dak now, because the things that they leaned on in his rookie year, they're not doing so much this time around. I want to give a special shout out as well. I tell you guys this all the time. If ever you disagree with me on something I say on the show or in an article or whatever, if you have like a real case, argument, something that you feel proves me wrong in that regard, by all means, let me know. Bring it to me. I'm not a closed-minded guy. Most recently, I think part of my stance this past Monday was just kind of frustration with everything going on with Dak. And there's offensive issues and all of that to blame. There's issues in plenty of guilt to go around for what's going wrong with the Cowboys right now, but I do feel that to some degree that it can't be overlooked what Dak is serving in that. So I went at Dak a little harder on Monday than I usually do, just because I was like, dude, I'm getting to a point where I'm not able to keep making excuses for him. They're not using him to his strength, correct, but that said, he's still not performing up to his normal standards that he needs to. He's not playing well, and there might be reasons for that, but ultimately, fair or not, quarterbacks are asked to shoulder a greater responsibility. Perfect example of that, Tony Romo for the Cowboys in, 2013, hosting Denver, that like 51-48 game in Denver or in Dallas. Romo throws for over 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, one mistake in the game, an ill-advised interception with like 2 minutes left, sets up the Broncos for the game-winning field goal, and Romo got killed for that. He played nearly flawless football. I know what people are going to say. Yeah, but he made the crunch time choke, and that's what people are going to point to. But it's one of those things where Romo got killed for it. I don't think it's right that he got killed for it, but quarterbacks are asked to shoulder a greater share of the blame. And so that's what I came at with on that. In this case, the person who kind of reminded me, sent me several articles reminding me that, yes, you can win with this. This is an offensive system. When run correctly, when you have the pieces that you need to run this system, the Patriots work a similar system. They went to Dan Mullen, Dak's college coach. He also coached Alex Smith and Tim Tebow. And now, obviously, Tebow's not an NFL quarterback, but you get the point. They did all of that, and so this person that reminded me of this, saying, hey, the problem is they're not running the system. They don't have the right pieces to run the system. It's the play calling and it's the line. That was Barbara Martin on Facebook. Very passionate Cowboys fan. So again, I welcome you guys. If I say something you disagree with and you want to contend or contest what I say, hit me up with an argument. Send me articles if it supports your case. Hit me with a message. I am by no means closed-minded. I will give you credit, give you a shout-out, as I'm doing to Barbara. I don't think I was totally wrong in this case, but I wanted to kind of spotlight that because she was very passionate about her stance and her, and her defense and everything for Dak. And I'm like, I get it. I don't fully 100% agree, but you're right. There are qualifiers that deserve mentioning. And for that reason, I wanted to give this shout out here the next time I went on air. Just so happens this is the first time I'm on air since then. Gleh, Harrison Barnes tweaked his hamstring. He'll miss the first preseason game and be reevaluated in 7 days. First preseason game is in 2 days. Yeah, that's correct. I saw that headline. I think it was yesterday. He suffered a hamstring tweak. I thought I heard that he was going to miss the whole preseason, which that's not a long time, probably a couple weeks. But you said reevaluated in 7 days, so probably will miss essentially the preseason. If that's the case, the thing is, there's 82 games in the NBA, just regular season alone. I think there's 4 preseason games, so 86 games before you get to playoffs. It's not a huge deal for a guy to miss preseason. It means the offense won't quite get into its initial flow, but they're not going to be throwing out anything special in the preseason anyway. This is really just glorified pickup basketball, essentially, and it's just about seeing what these guys can do, getting them used to playing against not themselves in practice or in pickup games, running with the unit. So it's going to be Luka Doncic, DeAndre Jordan, Dennis Smith Jr., not going to have Dirk yet either. So you're going to be down. I know Dirk's not a starter this year, at least presumably, but you're going to be down 2 of your first 6 guys, essentially, at least. And that's going to mean it's a different look, but it's still valuable time for Dennis Smith and for Luka and all of that, because those guys are the real, what's the phrase I'm looking for? The engine that drives the car, so to speak. And Harrison Barnes, yeah, he's probably going to be the number 1 scorer. If not number 1, then certainly number 2 scorer on this team. So it's a little bit of a blow, but him being 26, 27, I don't view it as a huge deal that he's going to miss time. As long as they get it taken care of and it's not going to be a lingering injury, then good. You know, NFL, if you pull your hamstring and you miss several weeks of the preseason and all that, and you're, you know, if it was worse and he was also a rookie, then I'd say, yeah, that's concerning. That's why I was so concerned with Leighton Vander Esch, you know, straining his groin in training camp and missing the final 3 preseason games and being a late add just to the opening day roster. So that was all concerning for me, but for basketball, I'm not too worried about it. It's a shame as long as it ends up not being a Seth Curry initial stress fracture or stress reaction is what they called it in his knee, and then come to find out, nope, he's not coming back at all this year. Like, oh, well, that's a shame. What's Luka's stat line going to be Saturday? His stat line in his first preseason game. That's tough because I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. Like, Rick might not treat it as a heavy minutes game, just kind of getting him a taste out there. If that's the case, it's not going to be anything that blows you away, but I'm willing to bet something like 9 points, 5 assists, and 4 boards. Something like that. Something nice, but I'm envisioning kind of a smaller sample size, and I'm thinking that of those assists, you're going to have 2 or 3 plays where you go like, ooh, that's nice. Haven't had much of that in a while as far as the pizzazz and wow factor of his court vision and everything. One sec. But that's what I'm envisioning for Luka's debut in that regard. It's just one of those things where we're going to have to see. I'm more excited, obviously, for regular season to roll around. This is just glorified scrimmages, effectively. So, let's see here. Thank you guys for joining me here. I know it's a little later than normal. It's not my normal setup that I do on Thursdays, but it's been a whirlwind 24 hours, so I'm not... You'll have to forgive me. I'm not as prepared as normal. But, yeah. ATX, the great. The game is Saturday morning and not tomorrow morning. Did I say tomorrow morning? I'm sorry. My days are messed up. Like I said, I'm all turned around right now. Yes, you're correct. Tomorrow's Friday, and so the game is in 2 days. I believe it is in the morning. No. This first game is 7 p.m. It's at Dallas, I think, is what Max Levy, a.k.a. Rangers King, said. And then the next one that's in China is 7 a.m. our time because it's in China. Something to that effect. But I want to make a quick call out here for something that Max Levy found, tracked down, and corrected me on. If you guys have watched me for a couple months, then you've surely heard me scream to the heavens about how I'm so mad that the Mavericks let Seth Curry get away from them in free agency, especially for what I felt was a ho-hum contract. Now, Max was great enough. Yep, in Dallas first Ducks. Thanks, Gle. Now, Max was nice enough to track down this source. Now, he had mentioned it to me previously, but it wasn't until it was found that he found it again and sent it to me that I was like, okay, now that reaffirms it. So let's see here. This is from an article talking about Portland's free agency. It's talking about just NBA free agency in general. It says, and now that Devin's back, I can pretend that I nailed it again, except that I'm leaving out the part that hasn't factored in. While I predicted that Yogi would get squeezed all the way to Sacramento, as it turns out, I also predicted that the team would want Seth Curry back, which it did, but Curry made the personal choice to leave for Portland instead. Why? Because Portland had a guaranteed 6-man role, would be a playoff-level team, have an all-star caliber player, and an already established superstar. So there it is right there. That explains why Seth Curry chose to go to Portland instead of stay in Dallas. Yes, he could have been the 6-man in Dallas. Hell, he could have been a starter potentially in Dallas. Well, it might have been hard for him to start in Dallas, but he would have been a 6-man or a significant player off the bench for them. So in terms of his personal role, in terms of his potential overall success and team success, Portland made more sense for him. So that is what it is. So I guess I have to withdraw my rage and fury at the Mavericks front office for letting him get away. Browns 41, MFFL. How many points do you think the starting five need to average to have a chance to make the playoffs? How many points do they need to average? Well, I mean, typically you need to average somewhere in the neighborhood of 103. I mean, if you're averaging 99, you're considered not a strong offense these days. If you're averaging something in the neighborhood of 103, you're considered a pretty good offense. The key, though, is defense. If you're a defense and you can be in the top half of the league defensively and you can score 103 points a game, you'll have a pretty good chance. But, I mean, to me, it's kind of a loaded question in a sense, just because to then try and quantify what you need to make the playoffs, that's hard to say, because you can have, it depends on your overall health, right? You can have, say, DeAndre Jordan. Perfect example. DeAndre Jordan suffers some kind of significant injury and misses a sizable chunk of the season. Okay, now you don't have your rebounding presence or your defense. All right, so now you're giving up more points, but because you're having to put Dirk in there, your offensive efficiency overall might go up. So you might be scoring more points per game potentially, but your defense is worse, so you're not making headway in the Western Conference playoff picture. So that's a tough one. I'm going to say if Dallas wants to get back to the playoffs, obviously they want to get back. I'm not trying to say they don't. They got to have some things break right. Luka Doncic has to be really in the thick of that Rookie of the Year running. He has to be that good. They need Dennis Smith Jr. to take the next step forward, Harrison Barnes to be a point or two better minimum per game, and DeAndre Jordan's got to make up for and be a Band-Aid over a lot of the issues pertaining to the rebounding and the defense for the I almost said Cowboys, for the Mavericks the last few years. So if he can address those things, and those other things can happen as well, that plus health, they've got a chance. But it's going to be tough sledding. The over-under from Vegas for the Mavericks was 34.5 wins. I'm seeing something more in the neighborhood of 37 to 39, but that's still not going to be good enough for the playoff picture as is. If they surprise even me in that regard, which they could do, I'm not pretending that I'm some super dialed-in expert where I'm looking at a crystal ball and reading the tea leaves and all of that to tell you what's going to happen. I can just give you my assessment of what I see and the research and everything I do and the insight I get, from covering the games, hopefully for Dallas Sports Fanatic, covering the games in person again, which means anytime I do that, I will have footage for you guys, locker room interviews and stuff like that. I will post all of that content if I get that to the Dallas Prospect YouTube channel right here, which will be another reason to subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, that's your prerogative, but this is definitely the best place to be. Another quick note here. Portland needs to blow it up. Yeah. I mean, they're very close to that range. If they have a season that derails like their last one did, as far as the playoff thing, 3 seed getting swept, yeah, definitely then. But they're going to hang on because that's what teams do. Because blowing it up means giving up on Dame. And if you're losing Damian Lillard, that's not a guy you're going to find again anytime soon. So it's tough sledding, but that's what they're going to have to figure out. ATX the Great. No, I was confused. I thought it was tomorrow, so Saturday at 7:30. Saturday at 7:30 is what I am hearing, correct. Jimmy Butler trade. Unless I missed some breaking news within the last 5 minutes, nothing new on Jimmy Butler. I can tell you this. Dallas is out on him, and Cuban explained why. The cost just to get him would be tremendous, and I think they do have some concerns as well with regard to his character. I think a lot of that's just general perception as opposed to him being a real locker room cancer. But the team's hottest on his trail right now. Phoenix tried to swing a 3-team deal which would have landed them. Who was it? Was it them trying to get back Dragic from Miami? Because Dragic was in Phoenix prior. Well, it was with Miami, Minnesota, and Phoenix. And the Suns said the deal was too rich because the cost was just too high to get Butler out of Minnesota. Minnesota's still trying to put teams over the barrel for what they get. I know the 76ers tried to reach out to him, but they countered the 76ers offer with, give us Ben Simmons. Of course, you're going to turn that down. So I like Jimmy Butler, I do, but I'm not giving up Ben Simmons for him if I'm Philadelphia. Miami is being very aggressive trying to get him. Houston's trying to get, quote, creative. I don't know that Houston has the ability at this point to... Houston, man, I'll give Houston this. I hate Houston, but doggone if their GM... Daryl Morey. If that dude doesn't work his tail off to, he keeps things exciting for that fan base. The guys he brings in, not just the initial James Harden deal, but helping them get Dwight Howard, pulling off the deal for Chris Paul, bringing in guys like Eric Gordon, and, I don't give him points for Carmelo because I'm also a Thunder fan. I saw what Carmelo amounted to for myself last year. If they can actually make him come off the bench, then hey, maybe he's got something for him. And obviously, it's a much more agreeable price tag for them at this point than it was for OKC last year. Jeff Petit, typical Houston. Yes, it is. But again, if you're a fan of the Rockets, you're happy with your ownership and your management because they're aggressive. And they got the right mindset. Everything they do, their only focus is beating Golden State. And you could argue if not for a Chris Paul hamstring basically blowout in the playoffs last year in the Western Conference Finals, they probably beat them. They lost in 7, and they didn't have Paul in Game 7. So there you go. William Phillips, if worse comes to worse and the Mavs miss the playoffs by big, they keep their top 5 lottery pick. What position do they need? Guard, wing, or big? Well, there's a couple options there because there's so many factors that we have to see. First of all, they have to lose, as you said, big. They have to lose a lot of games to keep that top 5 pick because even though the lottery odds have shifted, now you have equal odds of getting the number 1 overall pick regardless if you're 3rd worst record or the worst record. So that's limiting some of the tanking at the bottom, but here's the problem. It doesn't really limit the overall tanking. It just shifts the group that is tanking. In fact, it might actually make it worse in this regard because now you're going to have teams who before might have had the ninth worst record. Now you're going to have them tanking in the final weeks because they're like, we got nothing to play for anyway. But hey, let's get our odds back in and try and get into the swing because now we have a better chance than we did last year of a number 1 pick, even if we're outside on the edge at like 9. And we have a much better pick of landing somewhere in the top 5 in general, even if we are the 9th or 8th worst record. Like, it shifts the block from the very tippy top, but I also feel like it opens it up more for more teams kind of caught in that middle purgatory to try their luck at tanking. So we'll see how that works out. But if they don't re-sign DeAndre Jordan after this year, whether it's because he doesn't have a good year or whether he wants more than they want to pay or whatever, if for whatever reason they don't re-sign him, then they're going to have to figure out their center position. And isn't that a familiar story here in Dallas? Dirk will be gone, presumably. So they're going to have to figure out 2 front court players then. So that's a big need for sure. I still would like a starting 2 that can be a two-way guard. But I don't know because, Wes Matthews is also an expiring contract this year. After this year, the only guys that are going to be under contract as it stands right now, I mean, you got your rookie class here. But Dennis Smith, Luka, Harrison Barnes, and I think Dwight Powell's got 1 more year he can opt into. So those 4 plus, this recent rookie class, those guys will be under contract. The Mavericks are going to have like $70 million minimum to play with in free agency. So we'll see. My guess is that they're going to probably lose out on that top 5 pick, because even with the odds tweaked and a little bit in their favor, I think even if they fall into that 34.5 range, that's going to still more than likely take them out of that. The worst case scenario for the Mavericks is they don't take a very big step forward with regard to their overall performance, at least for this year. They miss the playoffs, and they fall somewhere in that like 6 and up range, somewhere in that 6 to 10 range, where it's like, so no playoffs, didn't take a big step forward this year, and now we lose that first draft pick. Awesome. That's worst case scenario. Well, I mean, that doesn't include like injuries or something. I'm knocking on wood, don't worry. Doesn't include like things like injuries, or if someone has someone doesn't take a big step forward, or worse, regresses. But that's the fear. I don't know that that's what will happen, but they are going to need a front court player. I still think they need a 2, but they're solid at kind of the 1 through 3 in terms of their main core. They're going to have Dennis, Luka, and Barnes, which could be your starting 1 through 3 right there. Marquise. If Wiggins was on the trade block instead of Butler, would the Mavs be more interested since he's locked in for 5 years? Wiggins is better than Barnes. Man, Wiggins is kind of like a riddle wrapped inside of an enigma. I don't know if I said that quite right, but here's my thoughts on Wiggins. He's got a higher ceiling than Barnes, certainly, but locked in 5 years at crazy money has been my observation. And with Butler in the mix, another alpha, and I know Karl Anthony Towns is really like the main attraction there, but he dropped 7 points per game average 1 year with Jimmy Butler. That's troubling to me. Not because I think we have another Jimmy Butler guy here, but he's going to have to share touches, so his averages aren't going to be high money. Like, the perception right now is Harrison Barnes is way overpaid because he's making all that money and averaging 19 points a game as a number 1 option on a bad team. And so they're like, hey, if it's a bad team, you should be able to average more points per game. Fair point. But Wiggins, he's going to have to share those touches with Smith, with Luka. If he's replacing Barnes, then he'll just have to share with those two primarily. But I don't know. I do think that Carlisle could unlock more from Wiggins than Thibodeau can, because I don't think of Thibodeau by any means as an offensive developmental coach. I think he's a good defensive coach and all that, but he also has a tendency to run his players into the ground as far as using heavy minutes. So I don't know. I think Rick could get more out of Wiggins, but I don't know what the cost would be to get him, and then he's an expensive keep, so even though they got the money to do it, you got to really think that there's that next level that Rick can get him to, because otherwise, probably not, is my thinking. Minnesota should not have traded for Jimmy when they had Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn. Don't know how Jimmy is likely to get traded. I wish we didn't get the 5th pick in this lottery, so we still had next year's pick. We got screwed. Yeah, we got an unfortunate break. We had the 3rd best odds at number 1, and we wound up with number 5, which meant they had to make the trade to get Luka Doncic. If that had just worked out on the lottery pick, whatever day, Dallas would have been able to keep that and kept their pick. You're correct. I think Minnesota went for it. And at the time, I thought it was a brilliant move for them to get Jimmy Butler, because I looked at it and I said, Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, they made several moves in Minnesota last year. I was kind of surprised. Now, part of it was because Jimmy Butler himself missed several weeks with, I think, a fracture in his leg, like just below the knee or something like that. And they ended up being an 8 seed. I thought they were going to be a 4 seed, honestly. Before the season started, I looked at their talent and I was like, man, I think they're really good. And maybe it was just because of injury or something like that, but they didn't get where I thought they were going to get. And the end result was they're an 8 seed and they get beat by the Warriors. So now they're having to blow it up because the Jimmy thing didn't work. It's interesting how that didn't work for him or for them with Jimmy, but OKC took a similar, if not greater, risk with Paul George, and they found a way to make that work. And now you see Toronto making the same gamble with Kawhi Leonard. So kind of interesting how that's working. You got to roll. You got to swing for the fences, I guess, sometimes. And for OKC, it worked out. Not only did you keep Paul George, but you were able to re-sign Russell Westbrook, which without him, there is no OKC team right now. I mean, they would be that garbage. So they kept Russell because they got Paul George and Carmelo. That convinced Russell to re-up on a new max deal. And even though Melo's gone now, and even if Paul George had also left, they would have still kept Russ, and that would have been something to hang on to and keep fighting to get better for a few years. I like Romero Langford as the 2 guard from Indiana and Zion Williamson as the big that evolves more to positionless basketball. Williamson has a better all-around player. Is a better all-around player than people give him credit. Yeah, my co-host for Mavs Fast Break, Inni Nduka, he's more dialed in, admittedly, to the college basketball game. Like, I know certainly about Zion Williamson, but as far as like Langford, that's someone he would be more in tune with than me. But I am certainly interested. I think the big is probably going to be the greater need for Dallas. Even if they do keep DeAndre, you're losing Dirk, and you're going to have to figure out something to do. What's up, Ranger King? Isaiah Hunt, I'm here. Yes, sir, you are. Minnesota should have been the 4th seed, but Jimmy got injured late in the year, and Minnesota lost to the Rockets, not the Warriors. Yes, you're correct. Yes. Man. Like I said, it's been a tough 24 hours. My mind was thinking that it was already Friday earlier. It's not. So for those joining in now, isn't Westbrook out with injury? He had some minor knee scope thing. He'll miss the preseason, but I'm sure he'll be ready for the opener. It's nothing that I'm worried about lingering into the season for OKC. I think the initial prognosis was 4 weeks, so maybe a couple games tops, but they'll be all right. So let me rehash my announcement from earlier. I don't know if you guys already looked at the description. If so, you've already seen it. But, so normally this would be my Cowboys-Lions preview. I've had a whirlwind 24 hours. I am mentally and physically just sapped. But I'm here for you guys because I wanted to keep my commitment, keep my schedule and all of that, my promise, so to speak, to doing this. So instead, since I'm not prepped for my normal preview show, I made this a live with DDP. I will do my preview show either tomorrow or Saturday at the Cowboys Experience in Plano, Texas at Lava Cantina from 2 to 4:30. I will be joined there by Law Nation and Big Game James, and we will be doing the Cowboys Experience. We'll be doing a show for them that will feature at the event. We're supposed to get these guys. I'm still reluctant to promise it because it seems so crazy. I'm like amazed by it myself. But this is what we've been told, that we will get Brice Butler, Cowboys wide receiver Brice Butler, Chidobe Awuzie, Jeff Heath, and Cowboys legend, the original 88, Drew Pearson. We will have the chance to get them on the show. At least some of them. We're going to try to see if we can get them out there. But the Cowboys Experience asked Law Nation, myself, and Big Game James out to this event, specifically asked us to come out and to host a live broadcast. This is something we are doing, again, Lava Cantina in Plano, Texas from 2 to 4:30 Saturday. Come out and join us, guys. This is a huge opportunity and chance for not just prospect, for really all of us, because it gives us, firsthand access to some of these players. And if we can add that dimension to our content, then we can really help ourselves stand out in a crowded Cowboys YouTube talk, sphere. So we'll see how that goes, but that's this Saturday at Lava Cantina in Plano, Texas from 2 to 4:30. If it works out, we should be out there every Saturday before a Cowboys home game. It doesn't really matter what happens with Zion and Romeo because they won't last where we are. I'm looking at either Konati, previously mentioned, or Dylan Windler, who is a skilled 3-and-D athletic wing with some higher-level playmaking, scoring, and defense, and crazy good shooting and efficiency. If there was one guy on the Chris Middleton projection, I'd say he has a shot to be that kind of guy with some greater athleticism. Thing is, he plays at Ohio Valley Conference School, Belmont, and Tennessee, so he's hard to find film on. Jeb Hackott. What's up, Jeb? Do you think the Mavs will make some trade, including Barnes and Matthews? Wesley Matthews is an expiring contract this year. I think that means that at any point he could be dealt, especially as the deadline nears, because not only because playoff teams might be looking for that extra 3-and-D guy to put them over the top, and by the way, he'll see a little bit of a reduced role in Dallas this year, which will help preserve him and I think get more out of him when he is on the floor. Because he's an expiring contract and because we're a few years now removed from him getting that fat contract, the rate of inflation in the NBA as far as contracts go have made his contract less unpalatable for other teams to consume. And again, expiring deal. Easy guy to pick up right before the stretch run before the playoffs. You're not paying the majority of that salary anyway, so there you go. That's how you make that work. I could see Wes Matthews absolutely being dealt. Barnes has a player option after this year. I don't see Barnes being dealt. They view Harrison Barnes as the Michael Finley to Luka Doncic and Dennis Smith Jr.'s Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki, respectively. So because they see him like a Michael Finley type, I think that they're going to lean on him and keep him around for his leadership. And as far as his professionalism, the dude is a pro's pro. Like he is. He, from the moment he has stepped foot in Dallas, he has represented the city, the community, and everything in the best possible way. If you recall, he showed up literally within like a day or two of the Dallas shooting involving the police officers and everything. And, as soon as he showed up, the city was kind of already reeling and mourning that whole experience. And he came in and immediately said all the right stuff. Was very receptive to everything, and it was like he was already here and like he already was connecting with people, and that was really cool to see. So in that regard, I got nothing but respect for the guy. Do I wish his on the court product was a little better and that it could be the lead dog? Yeah, but I don't think that's how he's built. I know that's how we're having to use him. But I think ideally you have both Luka and Dennis Smith Jr. surpass him where he can be your third wheel. And I think he's a good third wheel on a really good championship caliber team. He probably needs to be the fourth option. But for a playoff team, if he's your third option, I think that's solid. Hopefully that answers your question, Jeb. And that's like the 95% outcome. I'd say there's a solid 15 to 20% chance he can be fourth or fifth starter kind of guy. And definitely a contributor off the bench as likely outcome after that. Is that talking about the draft guy you were talking about there? I don't know. How long have I been going? 40 minutes? All right. Man. Well, guys, hit me with some questions here. I'm gonna stay on as long as I'm able. Like I said, I'm pretty run into the ground right now, but I always want to give you guys everything I have because I feel like that's the best thing I can do if I put all of myself out there for growing the channel and growing really the community around the channel. That'll help us grow. And I want to build something here. I want to build something special. So King Busy, Harrison Barnes should go to the basket more. He has decent hops. I agree. He that's one of the things too, because he doesn't go to the basket more, he doesn't shoot as many free throws per game as I would like. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I think that's the really big thing that's kind of missing from his game, is that willingness to go to the rim more and draw fouls, because if he gets an extra 4 free throws a game, think about that, that's 2 fouls. 4 free throws a game, 4 points more potentially added to your average. Now you're looking at 23 points a game, and now the perception on you is different than it is. Thank you, Gle. Yeah, that was about Windler. Gotcha. Also got something crazy to say. I'll be at the preseason game this Saturday. Somebody gave me free tickets, a friend of mine, so holler. Very nice, man. Very nice. William, you look tired, bro. I 100% am. I share a lot with you guys of myself and all that. I don't think I can't get into everything I've been dealing with the last 24 hours. But it's been tough for sure. But I said I would be here, so I'm here. I needed some normalcy, and you guys are that normalcy for me, so thank you. Yeah, I hope you'll be alright soon. I just joined in. DDP? You mean Diamond Dallas Page? Hey, what's up, Mara? Yeah, so DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, yes, that is who my nickname pays homage to. So if you guys want the kind of origin story, yeah, yes, Ranger King right there. If you guys want kind of the origin story of my nickname, when I started doing this, not when I started doing this overall, but when I started working with Law and Big Game James, we looked at it and we were like, okay, so Law Nation, badass name. Big Game James, dope. Even our show's producer of Silver and Blue Nation as well, Producer G. And then it was just Darreck. Like, just over here by himself, Darreck. So, like, they're like, when Law's throwing it to people, like, hey, what you think of this, Big Game James? Hey, G, what you think of this? And then it'd be like, all right, Darreck, what do you think? And it felt so dopey to me. I was like, all right, I got to think of a nickname. And they're tossing out all these nicknames, and, I love those guys, but a lot of them early on, I was like, oh, God, no, please don't make that my nickname. And it happened to correspond with a conversation we had in a group text with all of us earlier, where we were talking about, I think it was 90s wrestling. I used to be a huge wrestling fan. I still watch the pay-per-views on the WWE network, but I used to be like obsessive fan from like 97 until 05, 06, something like that. And one of my favorite wrestlers of all time was Diamond Dallas Page. The first time I really became a wrestling fan, my dad was a fan, and he took me to what was it, Thursday Night Thunder for WCW. They had a show in Oklahoma City, and took me there. And one of the wrestlers, Diamond Dallas Page, he would win. If he won his match, he would exit the ring through the crowd. And so he comes through the crowd. I have no idea who this dude is, but he like comes through the crowd and he's right there in front of me. He's holding his championship belt up, and all the people are like clapping him on the back, and I'm like mystified by like just the aura of this dude. And yeah, I mean, from then on he was like my favorite wrestler, just because I remember asking someone like, who's that guy? And he was known as the People's Champ. And I know WWF fans will say, that's The Rock. That's the great one. WCW had that too. People's Champion was Diamond Dallas Page. People's Champ, The Rock. Different companies, they both used the nickname. But that made Diamond Dallas Page my favorite wrestler. And then, of course, everything he's doing now, he's literally saving people's lives and stuff with his DDPY program and all of that. So really admire the guy. And so, yes, as Ranger King mentions there, I threw out the idea then of, well, if we're going with nicknames, before you just say like TDP for the Dallas Prospect, why not say DDP? You don't even have to change the letters. You just change the last word. So instead of Diamond Dallas Page, I'm Diamond Dallas Prospect. But I don't like drawing the whole thing out, and although it is my mission to eventually get the real Diamond Dallas Page on this channel for an interview sometime, I do admit right now I am concerned a little bit using the moniker DDP, that eventually it's going to land on his radar and he's going to be like, yeah, cease and desist, buddy. I hope not. He seems like a cool dude. I have had limited interaction with him, trying to book him previously, but that's my goal, man. I wanna make that work, and we'll see. But DDP is Diamond Dallas Prospect for the record. And I'm sure this admission in a live broadcast will be used in court as evidence that I am infringing on his gimmick. Oh, man. So, yeah, hit me up with some questions if you got them, guys. Let's see here. No. Got a notification on the phone. Thought it was something sports-related. It's not. Oh, man. Let's see. I am looking forward to the Maverick season getting underway as well. I got more articles coming out. I'm going to be very busy once Maverick season's going as well, because I'm going to be putting out articles for the Mavericks and the Cowboys on DallasSportsFanatic.com. They had a meetup earlier tonight for it, like all the writers and contributors for Dallas Sports Fanatic have like a monthly meetup. And there was one earlier tonight. I was not able to attend, so I had to kind of... I was bummed about that, but I wasn't able to attend for personal reasons tonight. And that's why when I got back to the house at 9 whatever, I immediately set up, because I still wanted to do this for you guys. Williams Phillips. I used to go to the world famous Sportatorium back in the 80s. Very nice. Yeah, man. Let's see. So that's the WWWF. Worldwide. What was it? No. WCCW? World Class Championship Wrestling? Yes. World Class Championship Wrestling sounds right. Did you see the piece about Dennis Smith Jr. and Luka having some crazy backdoor cut chemistry by Tim Cato on The Athletic? Had me mad hyped. I was on the Devin Harris backdoor cut surge last night. I did not see that. By all means, if you got the article, shoot that over to me on Twitter or something. By the way, guys, cheap plug here from myself. Follow me on Twitter at Dallas Prospect. I'm also on Instagram. You'll always get previews of the show thumbnails and everything there. I also put out some updates as well. Facebook, and hey, I was doing some heavy duty work earlier in the week. I'm still testing some stuff out, but I have some test footage of the 2006 Dallas Mavericks retrospective that I'm working on, and so I got kind of a sneak peek test footage from that. If you support Dallas Prospect on Patreon, even just at the $1 level, you'll get access to all of that behind the scenes stuff and all of that. That gives you, you'll get discounts towards Dallas Prospect merch, which I'm still working to roll out a couple more designs for as well. And you'll get early access to stuff and behind the scenes content that no one else is going to see. So just throwing that out there if you guys want to support Dallas Prospect for sure. But yeah, follow us on social media as well. Obviously, this is where I stream. I stream sometimes as well on Facebook, but it's always co-streaming on Facebook, like here and Facebook. But there are a lot of times where I'll just go live on the one platform like I am here now. So yeah, this feels most like home to me, I guess. But anyway, what's my time? 50 minutes? All right, I'll take 3 more questions. That's always how I open these up. I got time for 3 more questions, and then I'm gonna have to call it and try and get some rest for once. Oh man, let's see here. Preseason is right around the corner. Can't wait to see our guys, especially Dennis and Luka. I agree 100%. I'm very, very interested to see what we have with Luka Doncic. I mean, everything I've seen and heard thus far sounds and looks damn good, but it's going to be a whole different experience to actually see it at the NBA level and know that the hype was real. Thanks, Max. Oh, man. I was born and raised in Dallas, but I currently live in Phoenix, so going to the first game of the season to see Luka versus Ayton. Hey, man, nothing wrong with that. That is an exciting, legit, man. I'm jealous. That's an exciting one to go see because Dallas opens on the road. So yeah, that's legit, man. Yeah, that's badass. I'm trying to get to one of the games early on and the start of the season. Let me see here. I'm putting up the test footage now on Patreon for those who are there. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. How many questions have I taken so far? Yes, Fox Sports Southwest 7:30. All right, there you go. Saturday, 7:30 is the Mavericks preseason game. Thank you again, Max. Max might as well be like the unofficial producer of this show in the sense that he's always the instant on-hand fact checker. If you guys ask me a question, I'm like, I don't know. I just start kind of stalling a little bit until Max corrects it in the comments. I'm like, yeah, what he said. Yeah. Luka abusing Josh Jackson. I like it. Can Mark Cuban land Giannis Antetokounmpo in Mavs? It seems Cuban is not known for landing big fish. Can he? Probably not. I mean, the honest truth, I know that we drafted his younger brother, and Dallas is going to have, I think, more free agent appeal and draw than it's had historically, because Dirk's game, when Cuban's had the hardest time getting big fish, it's because Dirk's style of play is, even though it's legendary, even though it's silky smooth, it's not the style that American basketball is built around. It's not what's going to get the Sports Center top plays thing most of the time. If it's a playoff game, then that's different. But they want the jaw-dropping athleticism, and Dirk has always been more about fundamentals and footwork and just, a more European style of basketball and his own unique flavor. And so that's different. You've had that draw. You've had that draw poorly for Dallas in terms of leading big fish here. One of the cases in point of that, when Darren Williams was leaving, what was it Utah? When Darren Williams was a free agent, it wasn't leaving Utah. He was traded to the Nets first. That's irrelevant. When 2012, Darren Williams was a free agent. He came to Dallas to meet. Cuban actually wasn't even here. He was in LA filming Shark Tank. But he ultimately he being Williams, chose Brooklyn, where he could pair with, why am I blanking on the dude's name? Joe Johnson, instead of Dallas with Dirk. And that was because Joe Johnson, I think, fit better the mold of what was perceived to be a more American-style basketball. And I think he again being Williams, felt a little slighted by Cuban not being there. So Dennis Smith Jr., however, fits that mold perfectly. Jaw-dropping athleticism, thunderous dunks, mad respect all around the league. Everyone from Chris Paul to LeBron to James Harden. I mean, all these dudes are giving him his props and respect. If he is your best player or one of them, he is your kind of face. And Luka Doncic is the savvy, great court vision playmaker that we've been told that he is and that we've seen over in Europe that he can be. If he's that, and Dennis Smith Jr. is what he is, man, if you have that plus DeAndre locked down for a couple years, you might draw something. But I'm still reluctant to say that Dallas can get Giannis because Dallas ultimately won't be able to offer the most money to Giannis. And I don't know. I do think there is something to that where Cuban just doesn't seem to close the deal in those situations. He can get his foot in the door, get the meeting, but more often than not, he's been used as leverage. It just depends on how far Dennis and Luka come, and then if they have DeAndre Jordan locked up as well, then, maybe. But Greek Freak is locked up until 2021, 2020 or 2021, something like that. He's locked up for like 2 or 3 more years. I don't see the Bucks going anywhere. I think we have a better shot at Porzingis. Porzingis would be interesting as well. That'd be very fitting to bring in another unicorn, sort of Dirk-like player. Sort of. I didn't blaspheme. I think. Let's see. Can we hold the Seth Curry visual? Yeah, I did the Seth Curry visual earlier. I'll shout it out again. You weren't in here earlier when I talked about that, Max. But yeah, as Max found the confirmation that Seth Curry leaving the Mavericks was not the Mavericks' choice. The Mavericks did want to keep Seth Curry. He ultimately chose, for his own personal decisions, Portland because it gave him a guaranteed 6-man role on a team that was the 3 seed last year in the Western Conference, who has a all-star caliber player and a bona fide superstar in Damian Lillard. It made more sense for him here, for there, than it did here, because here, he's not going to be a starter here. And now with Dirk moving to the bench, I don't even know that he was going to be 6th man. So he made the better call. It's like, would you rather be on a mid-30s win team? Likely. Or would you rather be, somewhere in that high 40s, low 50s, somewhere like that? Portland's dangerously close. If they blow out at the end of the year like they did this previous year, they might need to blow it up. But until we get there, that's the more appealing sign for them. William, Brooklyn, yep. Also, Makan looks really nice, like he could be that kind of guy in the future. Dennis Smith Jr. will have to recruit some of his old AAU buddies. That'd be sweet. I'd be down for that. We could use some real recruitment like that. Hashtag Mavs sign Chris Middleton 2019. Join my standing campaign. Stumping campaign? Standing? Nah. That's a long hashtag, man. You might want to shorten that a little bit, would be my advice. Maybe just say Middleton to Dallas or something. Middleton to DAL. Yeah, you got to have it short and concise. It's got to be something quick and punchy. Can't be like spelled out 27 words. But I like the idea. I do. Chris Middleton would be a hell of a sign for Dallas in 2019. Let's see. Napier left Compton, so they needed him. Gotcha. All right, well, I've been going about an hour, guys. I'm spent. So I'm going to wrap up this episode here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, follow us on social media, cheap plug or not, at Dallas Prospect on Twitter. Everywhere else, we're just The Dallas Prospect. Facebook, Twitch, Instagram. I'm sure there are other accounts out there that I've created and forgotten about, but those are the main ones I monitor. Subscribe to the channel below. If you want to support us on Patreon, help us create new, better content. It all goes straight back into the show and what we produce. I mean, the retrospective thing I'm trying to do, it is very ambitious. And, we've got some patrons already. They make it, they and you guys, everyone who supports everything, whether it's super chats, the PayPal me link or whatever in the description, or Patreon, all of that goes into that, makes it all possible for what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. So if you want that, by all means, man, let's do it. But Periscope, yes, that's tied to my Twitter, Max. That's tied to my Twitter, so that I don't actually stream through it. I just have the account that's tied to Twitter, so it co-streams there. In fact, Facebook's probably the only place I'm not live right now. I probably am live on Twitch and Periscope. I hope I'm not missing comments there. I'll feel bad about that. But all right, guys, until next time, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.